Next, we are going to welcome Zarah Lakhani. She's the co-founder and CEO of Vitaliti, and she's going to introduce her journey with Vitaliti. So welcome, Zarah. Please feel free to unmute yourself, start the video, and share your screen.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well. And I first and foremost just want to thank both DL for setting this up, Cecilia, and then obviously Dean DeVoy. I think a lot of, and I'll get into it later on as well, but a lot of what I'm able to accomplish now and do, and even where I am right now, would not have been possible to Dean DeVoy. So grateful to have someone like her in my life. So a little bit about me. I am a senior at Boston College. I'm graduating in less than a month, which is a little crazy to think about. I have a major in applied psychology and human development and transformative education with minors in management leadership and design thinking and innovation. So I wanted to start with explaining what Vitaliti is, how I kind of got into it, and then from there, where we plan to go within it, what borders we kind of plan to break within it. So Vitaliti is we're working on creating our product Spore, which is a mold spore monitor that automatically and continuously detects mold spores in the environment. We describe it very similar to a smoke detector, but for mold. But I do not have a business background, neither do my co-founders. So how we ended up in the space is it all kind of seems like it fell together beautifully. And now looking back at it, kind of all pieces together really well. In the moment, it didn't make sense though. But I think my story would originally start in 2021. Fall of 2021, I was at home, actually. I was doing classes online. I had been diagnosed with lymphoma, so I was undergoing chemotherapy and was unable to be on campus, but I had a strong commitment to finishing out my education regardless. I think that's something that's definitely been instilled within me from a young age, the idea of following through with education, and then also how important having this love of learning is. And I see that both within my commitment to Boston College and my academic goals, but also within both my professional goals, the things I'm able to pick up, and my personal growth as well. So as I was doing classes online, this was right after Boston College had kind of changed to an entire in-person. They were getting rid of masks. It was supposed to be this huge thing about going back to normal. So they were offering almost no online classes. And I was talking to Dean DeVoy and I was asking her, what classes can I take? How can I make sure I graduate on time, make sure I get my credits, all of that. And she recommended Design for Impact, which is an interdisciplinary ACC course, which connects different ACC schools. So whether it was Clemson, Virginia Tech, NC State, all different types of schools to work on design thinking and innovative solutions for climate change and sustainability. So that's kind of how I got introduced to the class. Again, was really not planning on taking it until Dean DeVoy really introduced it to me. Within the class, we learned a lot about design thinking principles, looking at the root issues of problems rather than band-aid solutions, which was really useful for us. I found it really amazing to be able to kind of look at normal solutions that already exist and dig deeper into why is this happening? Is this a systemic issue? Is this a real issue? What's going on? And within that, I was paired with actually a larger team, a team of 8 of us. And we decided that we wanted to all focus on mold. And that kind of came from all of our desire for health and wellness. Like I said, with my previous experiences with lymphoma, I think I had a strong and deep desire to be able to give back to the health and wellness community and the people who had really uplifted me within that. And one of my co-founders, Lindsay, she was telling us a story about how her roommate had such severe mold allergies that they had to constantly move growing up. She couldn't have scented candles. They only had to use one type of detergent. It was very, very extreme. And she had just been telling us a story about it. And with that, we started to look more into mold allergies, and we realized that this is really an issue that like is only getting worse with climate change, with the climate getting hotter, with more humidity. So our group of 8 split into 2. So it was 3 of us and 5 of the other. Ended up being me, Andrea, one of my other co-founders, and Lindsay. So Andrea is a BC student that graduated 2 years ago in 2022 in applied psychology and then minors in management, leadership, and design thinking. And Lindsay is a NC State student who graduated in 2022 as well with in industrial design. And we came up with this idea for Spore and decided we worked on it throughout the class and did our research and lit reviews. And again, it was just an idea. And at the end of the class, we had to submit to a competition. So we decided to submit to the Stanford Longevity Design Competition. We submitted in December, said our goodbyes. Like, I remember I didn't even have in our group chat, I didn't even have Lindsay's like contact number saved. Because I was like, okay, like this is it, like class is over. And we were so shocked come like a month and a half later when we get an email back from Stanford that we were one of the 8 finalists that were chosen in the United States. The only ones in the United States globally. We were the only ones chosen in the United States. And we were so shocked by that. And we realized that this is something that we think could win the Stanford project, and why not go ahead with it. So we spent all of spring 2022 working on kind of making it real, coming up with the product, coming up with the internals of it, doing a lot more research on what internals would go into it, what types of mold exist, what is toxic mold versus regular mold. We found out that there's actually a regular amount of mold that exists in households. We ended up winning 3rd place internationally in the Stanford Longevity competition out of 136 entries. And again, we were still very convinced that this was an idea. So we took the money, split it up, and we're like, okay, this is it. However, Dean DeVoy was able to set up a practice pitch with us and some people at JP Morgan. And I think going into that is when we really realized, like, wait, this is not just an idea. This is a business. This is something that we want to go forward with. When coming up with the pitch deck, I remember Andre and I were coming up with it, and we had no idea what a pitch deck was. Like, I was subbing in schools at this point. I was an elementary education major before I switched over. And we were like on Canva making a pitch deck, no idea what to include in it. We had no go-to-market strategy, none of that. And but we had a lot of fun learning in the process. And I think, like I said before, I think that love of learning is what's really kind of led us to be where we are today. After pitching at JP Morgan and hearing their feedback, we recognized that this is something that we are 100% going forward with. We took the summer of 2022 to file as an LLC, to set up like our internals, who's going to be in charge of what, and honestly, like outline what our next steps would be. Coming back to campus in 2022, we took part in the Shea Center Elevator Pitch Competition, in which we were connected with a lot more business professionals and mentors that were BC alums. Those alums were amazing for giving us business advice. Like I said, all 3 of us female founders had no background in business. Also, being female founders, we dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome and people pushing back, also because we were just an idea, and not taking us seriously. And we found that having those alums who were willing to believe in us and so willing to uplift who we were really, really helped us get to where we are. We then took part in the Shea Center Accelerator Program and then the largest venture competition at BC, Straykosh, and won $10,000. From there, all of our money and fundraising has gone directly to product development. So we created our proof of concept in December, which is this past December 2023, which was really, really exciting. And now are working with a university capstone program in UCSD in San Diego to create our MVP by June. We also have an internship program at Boston College. I think as like I was saying, as first-time founders at BC and as college founders, we recognize that there's a lack of entrepreneurial endeavors on BC's campus, and people were coming up to us and asking if they could be a part of Vitality, if they could intern with us having no program in place. So luckily, with the help of Dean DeVoy, we were able to put this program in place for the past 3 semesters. And it's been amazing having a team who is so willing to work for us for something they don't even get paid for. And it's like awesome to see people who really take it as their own. A strong commitment that we have is a focus on underprivileged and under-resourced communities. A lot of mold, where we've seen in our research, toxic mold and mold remediation comes from those areas. So 70% of houses already have mold in them, but in those areas, it's almost 90 to 95%, which is a large majority of them. And these mold has health costs such as asthma episodes, allergic reactions. Like people have been in the ICU for over 95 days just from what we've heard of it. But besides that, obviously, a significant financial cost as well. I think mold remediation varies per square foot, but it can cost upwards of $5,000. And then obviously these bills can be a lot higher depending on healthcare costs, like for hospitalization or having to move, as Lindsay's roommate did. So we have a strong commitment as well as focus on being able to give back to these communities. And that's why something that we carry through within our vision and statement is making sure that's affordable and accessible to all different types of people. Sorry, I felt like I spoke for a really long time and I wanted to give a couple of minutes at the end for questions if anyone has, or you can just drop them in the chat and I can private reply them.
Thank you so much for sharing about your journey, and there were so many interesting reflections along the way that I think will come up in some of our later presentations as well. Before we move on, does anyone in the audience have any questions they want to ask Zarah? You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions, and we have time for kind of one or two. But while we wait for some questions to come in, I can start off with one, or I see that we have one that came in. So what's next for you and Vitaliti?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So my co-founder, Andrea, is full-time on the team, which is really exciting. She's someone that is definitely a huge go-getter, and I'm grateful to have her as my rock and support. For me, I'm hoping to definitely spend the summer full-time on Vitaliti. I don't know where I'm going to go from there, but I'm really excited to take part in that. Besides that, like I said, we have our MVP coming in June, and then we will be going into customer testing, and then from there into manufacturing and production. So excited to get started in that process as well.
Awesome, thank you. And we have another question. What are you most excited about for the future of sport?
I think something that I'm most excited about is like, even with the proof of concept, seeing it be real. Like I said, this has been an idea since like 2022 until honestly end of 2023. So for a good almost 2 years, this has just been an idea that we've been pitching and talking about. But now as things are becoming real, like yesterday we filed our trademark, we have our patent in process. Seeing our proof of concept and seeing the way that it moves and like we can put a dish on it and have spores, it's really exciting to see that. And something I'm also really excited for is seeing the MVP. Like we meet with the capstone program bi-weekly, but even that I feel like isn't enough. Every week I go into a meeting and I'm like, okay, what's new? What's going on? What else do we have to do? And it's really exciting to just see it all come together, honestly.